but I need to see the slide.
Okay, somebody want to open the meeting?
Can I see the slide? Okay. I want to welcome everybody to the March 2026 meeting of Manhattan CB1's Transportation Street Activity Permit Committee. I'm Betty Kay, the chair of the committee, and joining me is, I just can't remember anybody's names. Zach Palmer, our district manager, and Jess Coleman, the vice chair. Anyway, we have a short agenda tonight. Yes. I won't have any problems with all the technical stuff. But anyway, first we're going to start off with the 5 borough bike tour, and I want to thank Darren and turn it over to you with a couple slides.
Awesome. Aldo, let me know if I can hop right in.
Yeah, go for it, Jeremy. Thank you.
All right, perfect. I think last year I hopped in a little late, so I'll start now. Reintroduce myself. My name is Jeremy Lockett. I am the Senior Manager of Community Outreach and Equity Programs here at Bike New York. I'm definitely excited to be here again. Wanted to chat all things Bike New York and obviously talk about the 5 borough bike tour. I'll pass it off to Aldo soon about that. Devin couldn't make it tonight, so we'll do the best we can to answer any questions you may have. But yeah, really excited to get talking again about Bike New York. Last year we had a phenomenal year, and we're out the gates and off to the races this year. As far as our programming for New York City, we are not only starting our bike path program, where we train those that are formerly incarcerated to become bike mechanics to maintain the city bikes around New York City. That program starts off in just a couple weeks. We are, other than the tour, we're very well known around New York City for teaching free learn to ride bike education classes. So we focus on learn to ride as well as safety, rules of the road. We teach adults as well as children. And so that is, I would say, the amount of folks that we've been teaching. It's thousands of folks. We have our 12 education centers around New York City. We also do pop-ups pretty much, I would say, 2 times a weekend, every weekend, running from about April all the way to October. And so we are full with programming. We've also launched and initiated a couple new programs, which we're really excited to introduce to the community folks in Brooklyn, New York, Manhattan, as well as Staten Island. We're continuing to do our bike builds this year. I think we've donated over 150 bikes so far, and we're looking to distribute more even come the next couple months. So we're constantly working on getting bikes in the hands of those that need them and possibly can't afford them. But we're also really trying to bring our bicycle education to the next level. So again, we do have our Learn to Ride classes, but we started more robust programming around what we call our Earn a Bike programming. And so we get young folks from different high schools and middle schools around New York City to come to our training center, Industry City in Sunset Park. We have folks start off unboxing new bikes. And after 6 to 8 weeks of programming, that bike that they unboxed is theirs to keep. And so they learn, I can talk your ear off about the curriculum, but anywhere from putting those wheels on, fixing flats, hydraulics, brake bleeding, all the things bike related. And obviously we definitely hone in on safety. And so we're excited about this year. Have some aspirations, but we're definitely going to meet some goals, and looking forward to answering some questions and continuing to be a resource here in New York City. We'll begin to pass it off to Aldo. Feel free to stop me with any questions, but good to be on this call, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank
We
you.
could move over to the third slide, and I could start getting into the details of the whole operation and going into the logistics of it all. So again, picking up what Jeremy said, thanks everyone again for having us again. Registration numbers are ahead of last year. As of today, we have 19,000 riders registered. Our volunteers numbers today reached about 900, so volunteers from all across the 5 boroughs that we're assigning to their roles. Our charity rider program as well, similar numbers to last year's. We're looking to have 70 organizations taking part of the ride this year, and getting representation again from all 50 states and 29 countries for this year again. And just for reference, last year we ended up having 27,000 total registered participants, and due to the rain, as you all remember, we've gotten unlucky with the weather the last couple of years, we actually had 24,000 participants that checked in. So we are ahead by about 2,000 as of today from last year's numbers. So we're expecting around 29,000 participants for this year. Next slide, please. Again, this year we're pretty much copying and pasting the whole operation and logistics. It worked out very well. If you guys recall, last year we made some changes and tweaked some timelines, along with some wave entry points. But as far as like the start line proper goes, again, no changes. We will have our stage again on Franklin. You know, our VIP breakfast area stretching all the way to Canal Street with a similar timeline to last year with street closures and setup times that we'll go over in the next couple of slides. Going into detail for what the changes we made last year, one of the major changes was actually completely getting rid of one wave. So in the past, you know, we've been playing around with this to kind of just, you know, we prioritize safety overall. In the year before, we had 6 waves. We collect data throughout the route and kind of like pay close attention through DOT cameras at certain congestion points. And we kind of implemented 5 waves last year that really helped us, along with like the wave start times. We got great feedback from DOT and all of our staff members on the route. So we're gonna again replicate what we did last year here, continuing the 5 waves with the first wave starting at 7:30. Then giving us an hour to then release wave 2. Wave 1 being the largest wave we have. Wave 1 is usually, it consists of all of our VIPs, our members, our charity programs. So that's where the bulk of like the folks end up. As you guys know, like the waves gradually all move forward towards Franklin, starting all the way back at Battery. So what that allows us to do by eliminating wave 6, it allowed our stationary volunteers here on Church to really like dictate the flow and be able to really move the waves accordingly based on their timelines. It went really smooth as far as like making sure that we released everyone at their start time. So we were happy with the results there. One additional thing that we've kind of been playing around with, which was the wave entry points. So last year was the first time we kind of made some changes to how folks enter from the Greenway and how they enter from Broadway. That went really well. As you guys know, we also placed a lot of directional signage along these streets to make sure that folks navigate into their corrals appropriately. So we really didn't deal with a lot of congestion at these entry points. So we're replicating the logistics for last year for that as well. Speaker placement. I know this is a big pain point here for a lot of the residents. So we gathered some data last year. So we had our AV vendor, who is 368 Event Management. They've done a lot of events here in the city. Actually come out with a decibel reader at multiple locations. We actually had decibel readers at all of these streets: Franklin, Leonard, Worth, Thomas, and Duane. And we got some numbers that I'll just go over really quick. So knowing that our limit was 80 decibels, I think, for like over the overall route, we confirmed we were able to stay below that throughout the whole event. The loudest we reached was 76 decibels, and that was on Franklin Street during the first wave, closest to the speakers. However, all of those dots that you see here, as far as like everything that's on the south of this site plan, we averaged decibel levels from 56 to 62, and everything across the street, where you see just those 2 speakers on the right and nothing else on the corners, we kind of never went above 58 decibels. So collecting that data was really helpful to us, because according to like our AV vendor, as long as we're like at the 50 decibel marks, to make sure that folks that are on the corrals that are kind of like bleeding up to the north side, they can hear the stuff. So we're really conscious of that, and we're trying to keep volume down, just as long as we can get the message across that's coming from the stage, throughout the announcements that we have during the day, which is, basically mostly like crowd control announcements, getting folks to move up. In addition to that, as you all know, we do a kickoff for every wave at the start time. So that's where the decibel levels get a little higher towards Franklin, but again, never reached above around the 60 mark for everything south of that. And we're going to replicate that plan again today. I mean, this year, and we'll also have decibel readers as well to keep track of what the volumes are. Just some outreach notes based on last year's call that I wasn't in. Just making sure that you guys are all aware that we are, starting outreach early on. We get flyers out on Church Street, placed out 2 weeks before. These are flyers that are going to go to all residential properties. We also do. We're going to put signs on infrastructure. So making sure that we line up infrastructure well ahead. This is in addition to the no parking signs that NYPD will put up about a week before. So really making sure that everyone in the neighborhood can see those. Again, same timeline as last year. Our key tour times that we kind of just went over, starting at 7:30, in our last wave 5 leaving by 9:50. We make sure that all riders are through by 11 o'clock. And we will have the same hotline as last year where anyone can contact us during event and leading up to it. Once again, as you guys know, the city is well preoccupied this year with the World Cup. One of the pitches we wanted to kind of see if that we can venture into changing was potentially moving the bike rental pickup. However, we weren't able to kind of like pursue that just because it was a kind of a no-go from the city. We've already submitted all the permits and had our first interagency call with all the agencies. But this will stay the same. Logistically, it worked really well. We're just, I think this year there isn't a construction that really made it a little bit of a pain point for our vendor, which you can kind of see in that black and yellow line there. So we're hoping that the operation will run a little smoother. I think just one of the issues we had was like detouring some MTA buses that kind of have to go through the operation throughout the day, which is kind of why we wanted to see if there was other options. However, we've now agreed with DOT and NYPD that we're going to go back to this plan, and there actually isn't going to be a construction lane, so it gives us a little bit more ample space, extra square footage that we can kind of just expand on the operation to avoid any congestion or any blockage for emergency vehicles or MTA buses. So again, we'll be back on Broad Street between Water and I think it's State Street, the bottom one, but I forget. Water Street, I'm sorry, and South Street. This is just an overview of the route. Pretty much the same as last year, 40 miles, incorporating again the same 4 rest areas and 4 water stops. So no changes here overall. We do have, 15 entertainment zones spread out, bike repair stations to support our riders, our marathon photographers that are just spread out in key locations that really just grasp the moment. Again, timing mats that help us just gather data to make sure we know how long it takes our participants to get to certain points, how many participants are stopping by rest areas, water stations, how many actually make it to the finish. So that's all in place again. As far as support, obviously having Jamaica Hospital throughout the event, they're going to be stationed at all rest areas at the start line. They also have mobile support as well, and FDNY ambulances as well, spread out based on their strategic operation there. In addition to that, we have SAG buses, which are sag and gear buses that we have right along the route. Also positioned in strategic areas. Those are for participants that break down, can't finish the ride, and they get sagged either to a rest area close by or the finish line. So again, all the same as last year. And that pretty much sums up the logistics. Again, we were really happy with the results last year. Other than the rain, the operation, ran really smooth. We got great feedback from DOT, from NYPD, and all our partners. So we're looking forward to kind of replicating that plan and moving forward.
Thank you. Could you give me you put together a bit of a report about what happened with the e-bike participation, which could only be those that were e-bike assist?
Yeah, I can shed light real quick, Jeremy, on just our restrictions for the event. I'll let you kind of just going a little further. But for our event, we partner with Unlimited Biking, who's also our bike rental partner. We have a strict restrictions on e-bikes as far as like which e-bikes we allow at the tour. We only allow category 1 e-bikes. Basically, what that means is only pedal assist e-bikes are allowed. No e-bikes with throttles are allowed. The reason for that being is that they exceed the speed limit of what our lead package usually goes by. So as you guys know, we have a lead package that's led by the NYPD, along with some of our more experienced course marshals that we call the Mozzie team. So they make sure that nobody in front of our tour, nobody really for the whole stretch of it goes above 14 miles an hour, which is kind of why we call it a tour. It's not a competitive ride. So we have strict restrictions on e-bikes, and how we enforce it is a few different ways. We have checkpoints at all of the wave corrals to make sure that certain marshals are making sure that no category 2 and above e-bikes are there. We also have checkpoints at 3 different locations along the route with NYPD support. One in Queens, one in Brooklyn, and 2 in Brooklyn. One at the Q Borough entrance, actually in Manhattan, one at the exit, one at the BQE, and in Gowanus as well. So we enforce e-bikes there. Not only that, we enforce to make sure folks, we have bag restrictions as well, make sure that people don't have a certain size bag, and make sure that everyone has their rider identification kit as well. And Jeremy, I'll let you go a little bit with more detail on just e-bikes real quick.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can really add to that report, because I really appreciate that, because really stole some thunder there. The things to add, I would say, is speaking on the partner that we work with, Unlimited Biking. Last year, I think we capped our e-bike rental at about 370 e-bikes via Unlimited Biking. We're going to cap that at 260 this year. So we are at a decreased capacity for our partnership with them. But that I just wanted to add really quickly. I'll do it happy to Evans. Thank you all.
Thank you. Are there any questions, Eric?
I think this will be fun if the weather is good. My concern is the price. I checked online. The entrance fee is about $200, $35 for charitable contribution. I'm concerned for the future that this price will, as it increases, I hope it doesn't prevent people from participating. Especially if it's a couple or maybe a family with older kids, it can really add up. It's just my concern is the price for people.
Yeah, and that's a great point to bring up. It's something that we've been, openly discussing with all of our partner agencies. The main reason our prices kind of have been going up gradually over the years is just the cost of doing business with city agencies has significantly gone up. With changes in administration and things of that nature, we end up paying a higher bill for a lot of our operation. Basically, like our fees to go over bridges, working with the TBTA, have gone up drastically in the last couple of years. The same goes for really all relevant agencies that we're talking about here, as far as like NYPD personnel, hourly rates, et cetera. So the way we base our price point, and I don't have all the data on this, but I know it's a conversation that our CEO and our CEO have been having with NYPD folks and the corresponding agencies is, we used to be kind of grandfathered into certain prices, which we, kind of kept us at a standard rate for a while. Those days are over. So, I think that's one of the major contributors to the price hikes, but, it's something that we're keeping a close eye on because, like you said, we are worried that some of our dip in registration numbers do have to do with the higher cost.
Justine?
Thanks so much. I just have a quick question about the e-bikes too, which I thought that's what you were asking, Betty, but maybe I misunderstood it. But anyhow, my question is, what was the feedback from last year? And if there were 300 and something last year and you're cutting it back to 200 and something this year, is it because of the crowd? To me, I think an e-bike riding next to a human-powered bike tends to be dangerous because they're going to go faster and it's a little bit scary. But that said, what was the feedback from last year? Thank you. And just so you know, Tammy's hand's raised as well, just so you know.
So as far as the operation goes, for us, the feedback with Unlimited Biking was mostly the upkeep. What ended up happening with a lot of the rental bikes is some of them ended up breaking down. Some people needed to get sagged. So what we did with Unlimited Biking last year, knowing we were dealing with some of these issues, not only with their unlimited bikes, but also with their with their standard rental bikes, we kind of placed them at all rest areas to make sure that they were able to accommodate repairs for all bikes included. So I think what we saw was that, the electric bikes for us, like operationally wise, they're harder to kind of fix and then be replaced and et cetera. So we kind of just wanted to keep the scope so that it's something that they can manage, as far as like making sure that, if you're renting a bike and your bike breaks down, one, that they're going to be able to fix it in a timely manner so that the participant can finish the ride. What ended up happening in a few instances was folks that opted for an e-bike for many reasons that they have, ended up weren't able to get an e-bike replaced. Rather, they were given a standard bike, just because of the demand of some of the bikes that were breaking down. So as far as like why, I think one of the reasons, as far as the operation goes, that's one of the operations. But to your point about e-bikes going faster than regular bikes, we do see that in some instances where we have a little bit of a congestion in the later waves. However, we do have course marshals out, riding along every wave, spaced out strategically, so that we make sure that folks aren't, riding in any dangerous manner, whether it's a standard road bike that can go pretty fast, or an e-bike as well that can, reach up our peak speed limit, which we try to keep below 15 miles an hour.
Yeah,
Thanks so
I
much.
really, yeah, definitely just want to reiterate what Aldo said. It's really about making sure that whether you're a regular biker or an e-biker, just controlling the pace. And from someone that's personally done the tour as of recently, on a regular bike, you can't be speeding by. You will be called out. You will be, it'll be addressed. And it's just the natural flow of things. I can't tell you what my top speed was, but I was nowhere, figuring out how to get faster than folks. It's kind of built into the process there. And even stopping in the middle of the tour, you're asked to come to the side. If you have to check something, come to the side. There were many instances where you're being kind of flagged down. Don't turn around, kind of go against traffic, things like that. Where obviously we would think that's standard, but some people want to catch up with a friend or look for someone. We got to keep it moving and keep it safe. So we do have those things built in. Yeah, that's all I want to add.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. No, yeah, absolutely. Just one more note on that. Like, safety being our top priority, we really pay close attention to our rogue riders that we have every year. A lot of times, like, it ends up really being folks that are, like on certain apps trying to make up a time and things of that nature, right? That they're recording. So we actually partnered with Strava last year, and we had a sort of a promotion that they partnered with Cliff, which was another one of our sponsors, where folks can record like their ride from a certain port in Central Park. And one of the things that we wanted to discourage was actually speed, right? So we actually took that out of the equation, so folks aren't encouraged to, let's say, get a top speed at a certain location. Again, just like trying to make it clear that this is a tour, not a competitive ride, rather than just completing a segment. So we took that out, keeping in mind that, we don't want to encourage like a first and third place on who rode the fastest, which a lot of times ends up, we do get some really experienced cyclists that do our event. We do keep them usually towards the front of the pack, and they don't really reach the limits that they're capable of. We are really conscious of this, and we do, we consider this a top safety priority for us.
Thank you, Cody.
Just real quick, I wanted to just reiterate what Eric had said about price, because this has, this bike tour has the potential to bring more and more New Yorkers into the fold of the biking community and introduce more New Yorkers to biking in general. So be it subsidies or other sources of revenue that you could possibly get to lower the price, to make it more appealing to people who perhaps, haven't really ridden before, that would be fabulous.
No, absolutely. And with the new administration, and then I know, Jeremy, you're probably more better to talk about this, but I know that our CEO and our COO are really concerned about, what's been trending the last couple of years, as far as like all our prices going up across the board, with the bills that we do get from the agencies that we partner with. So it is a conversation that we're eager to have. Again, this year has been tough to kind of just really get the city's attention with any changes. They kind of just gave us we need you guys to really keep things the same, keep it simple so that we can, they're trying to work with the World Cup and all of the stuff that they have in their plate. So it's something that we're definitely going to work on for next year, start those conversations early on.
Can I ask you, related to that, is there kind of a maximum that you're allowed to have? And if so, if you're reaching it, there's no real benefit to you to have a bunch of reduced price. You don't need to increase your numbers.
I
Is
don't
there-
really have that data, but I know a lot of our controller works with our CEO as far as like analyzing the cost of the event from the previous year to then determine the price for the next year. So I think the price hike is, correlates with exactly the bills that we have to pay, mainly not just for like the logistic of the operation, but like a lot of the bills that we do get from the agency partners that we work with.
Okay, so you have no maximum capacity.
So
number of
yeah,
people.
we do based on the current route, we do have a maximum capacity of 32,000. So the conversation for us, like one of the topics of way that we can, make this price make the price lower is expanding the route in certain boroughs. One being the Bronx, as you guys can kind of see in our map, that we really just kind of dip our toe into the Bronx and get out. Like one of our pitches is to expand the route there by 4 miles in order for us to be able to exceed our current capacity, which is now at 32,000. What that will allow us to do, based on data that we've gathered, is it will allow us to push our limit from 32,000 to 35,000 participants, which will alleviate some of the cost burden on our end. However, the city, like I said, did not entertain that this year. We came up with 4 different options on how we can do that, not only in the Bronx, but also in Staten Island, and kind of just like getting out of certain areas in Brooklyn that we've been having issues with some cobblestone roads. But we unfortunately didn't get any traction for that this year. We do have, proposals in place that we plan on, presenting again for next year.
Thank you. Would you like to introduce yourself? And
Yeah, my name's Joseph, I'm a member of the public. But I had a question about the e-bikes as well, which is that, have you thought about them in terms of accessibility to the tour itself as a like pedal assist, allowing people to participate who would not normally be able to get through the whole length of the tour? For instance, my parents have asked about it, whether they can bring their e-bikes along with them to participate, or if there is some kind of rider that says that you're not allowed to participate if you can't normally bike the whole.
No. Yeah, absolutely. We encourage anyone with a Category 1 bike to join the tour. When you register, we give explicit kind of instructions on what is allowed and what isn't as far as e-bikes go. So we do encourage anyone with a pedal assist bike that's able to join. Like, we don't have a cap on how many people can bring their own e-bikes. We just kind of incorporated that cap with our rental partner. But as far as e-bikes go, we still do get a large number of bikes that we don't necessarily have data for people that bring their own personal e-bikes that do pass through our security checkpoints and they go through and finish the whole ride. One of the things that we do, questions that and feedback notes that we get from e-bike owners are for there to be charging stations along the route. A lot of times they deal with like low batteries and things like that. That's why we encourage the pedal assist. But we've been kind of working with Con Edison, one of our partners in DOT, on being able to implement some charging stations that we can advertise. However, they are on the early stages of kind of making those available. I know for this year we're in talks of having one available at our Con Ed rest area, which is a Con Ed learning center in Long Island City. But again, we don't discourage e-bikes to be brought as long as they are Category 1 and they do fit the restrictions. There has been many instances, even at the Star Line, where we have to unfortunately tell people that they're not allowed to continue on because a lot of times, people try to sneak in a Category 2 or a Category 3, and that's what we have, stationary volunteers that kind of help us identify those.
great, thank you. And now, since Tammy, you like to clean up at the end, please speak.
Hi, guys. Thank you very much for coming year after year. I'm Tammy Meltzer, I'm chair of the community board. So I've seen a lot of these presentations. I do have a couple questions for you. One, increasing the ridership 10% to get to the 35,000 is a really large jump. Seems like a drop in the bucket in some ways. In other ways, it's 3,000 more people on the street in Lower Manhattan. And so the question I have is, when you're looking at your expansion plans, what are you looking at for expansion plans for the start line, and how will that change? Like, are
Yeah,
you
so
looking?
no, yeah, there are definitely some logistical changes to that. Adding 3,000 people to arrive within certain timelines certainly changes. One of the options that we've looked at is basically their scheduled arrival time. A lot of times, we when we send out comms prior to the event, we suggest arrival times for all of the waves, and obviously to kind of line up with their departures for their corresponding waves. So that's one of the ways that we want to kind of like spread it out, potentially maybe adding another wave similar to what we've done in the past, because maybe the logistics will then change for, accommodating an extra 3,000 people. We may need an additional wave for that, which may need to expand a little bit on maybe an earlier start, or kind of trying to see if we get a later finish. So kind of maybe getting another 15 minutes to clear people out. So instead of 11, getting everyone out by 11:15. So there's a couple scenarios that come into play when we add 3,000 people. There are mainly like with the wave entry points as well, and the size of the corrals where people hold. So we work with the data analysts to kind of help us kind of come up with a plan to make sure that our crowd control operation is up to par with the addition of the 3,000 folks. So we, like, in addition to just adding the mileage in the few proposals that we had in the Bronx, that always comes with also like the start in addition to the rest areas and the finish, and how kind of that changes the expectations. It's one of the main reasons we've actually been gathering data the last few years and adding timing mats at all these certain locations, just to make sure that we have good information for where we're getting the bulk of our people, where they show up, when they leave. So that's all helpful when we're thinking about adding, 3,000 participants overall to the event.
Yeah, that would be something we definitely like to have a better understanding of. You are one of the largest, if not the largest, events that we have in the neighborhood. And we have asked many of the people who host the really, really large events, at what point do you outgrow us? Right? I mean, it's a fair
Yeah.
question to ask.
No,
What point-
absolutely. And to be honest with you, the 32,000 number makes us the largest cycling event in the United States.
Yep.
If we were to be able to get to 35,000, that would actually make us the largest cycling event in the world. So it's another just caveat for, how we can, why our CEO is pushing this to the agencies, and how it can not only work for, increasing tourism, et cetera, but also making our ride a little more efficient and affordable.
And then the next question I had for you is, one of the downsides or upsides, depending on the notability and being the start point, is once everybody's gone, there tends to be a lot of signs left over. And I know I've
Yeah,
said this
we've
to the events team.
absolutely. No, we've been
Last year, in
kind of like
particular-
struggling with that the last couple of years, where
Yes.
we are getting pictures like weeks later with signs that are left over. So this year, what we're actually doing is we have a standalone breakdown signage team. I think the expectations for us to be able to, knock down all these signs and make sure that we do a thorough walkthrough by 1 p.m., which is usually when we try to be out of, the community and just have the streets back open, obviously with PD's assistance, et cetera, is actually outsourcing the breakdown part of it. And since I've been here with the company the last 4 years, we've been kind of having this struggle with our teams not being able to manage the breakdown load. Obviously, they have all of Saturday and some of Sunday to install the signs, and then we give them a really tight window to break them all down. So I think setting the expectations early on was one of our key learnings from last year, and we really want to focus on that list this year. And how we're going to do that is we're just going to outsource a little bit of it post-event. So once our internal team that has been there since the crack of dawn to break down equipment, et cetera, they have a hard stop at a certain time to make sure that the operation keeps going, the breakdown continues at our warehouse, et cetera. We're going to bring in an additional labor team, and we're going to, along with our visual map of where all of the signs are going, we're incorporating an interactive map where we're placing all of the signs, so that then a second team can come and reference it and be able to break them all down by the end of Sunday. Not necessarily by the end of 1 p.m., but by the end of Sunday.
I'm one of those people who sent images a week later, and maybe even 2 weeks later, no offense intended to you, but it wasn't just you. It was you, it was
Yeah.
the AHA run, it was a little on the
Yeah.
ridiculous side because there were some stop signs that had multiple large scale event signs. So if you lead and you're in the beginning of the month, then that is a really great way for us to tell the events team for city permits, hey, look, this
Mhm.
this system worked. Can you please have every other
Yeah.
large event, more than 10,000 people follow this path?
Yeah, and I mean, we stressed it enough. We had actual calls with our team leads that, were responsible for breaking down the signs, them asking us for additional resources, asking us for extra time. So I think, we kind of worked together this year on just making sure that we bring in one of our labor partners and to assist us, to continue on breaking down signs past our, breakdown time, which is at 1 p.m. when we try to open the streets again.
And then my only request is beyond breakdown. Breakdown to me means remove from site. It is not take off the stapled street sign and put in the local garbage can that's now blocked from accumulating any garbage from the tourists. I know that sounds really petty, but it does reset the neighborhood to, wow, that was an amazing event and they did such a great job. That's in general what we love every year.
No, totally. Noted. And we do work closely with sanitation, especially down there by Community Board 1 to make sure that they assist us with our garbage pickups. We do have strategic pickups, but we'll keep that in mind for all of the additional signage that may happen after sanitation leaves, just to make sure that we don't leave anything in addition with this kind of revision of our plan to just get out of there and be broken down completely.
Appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing your plans when you get to 35,000. I'm sure you're well on the way.
I mean, it's really exciting. I think the potential of having 35,000 and being the largest cycling event in the world is really appealing to us. As far as like the operations go, we really do feel like it'll be great to expand on the 40 miles that we currently have.
Definitely. So thank you very much for coming again.
Thank you all.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I also want to tell you, one of the things that I found the most interesting personally was the data about the decibel levels. If you really want to go crazy, they sound very reasonable. I want to tell you that's a decibel level I get inside my unit. When in Battery Park City, they have events outside for children activities. So
Mhm.
I feel it would be very reasonable because it's something I get experienced with all the time. But if you ever get crazy about data, what I can tell you is it has been said, if you're surrounded by high rises, the sound can actually be louder at higher heights than it is by the actual.
That's totally true. That's actually one of the points that our AV vendor brought up, which is, I don't know if you guys remember, but a couple of years ago, we actually had speakers laid out slightly different where they were kind of cross path on both sides of the streets. What ended up happening there was a rise in decibel levels because he was still tracking it then. So that's one of the main reasons we removed everything on the north side, is just because of the sound bouncing off. To your point with the buildings, it's something you can't really account for based on just like somebody in the back end just putting tuning the volume up or down. It ends up being a little louder than what they expected. So that's why now we focus on just having speakers on one side, just to make sure that we're avoiding a lot of like the bouncing that happens with the buildings, which is a feedback we got from our AV vendor that we made the change for next year, which, kept the decibels level significantly lower.
Well, thank you. Since there aren't any other questions, I'll move on with, we need a resolution. So given there are really no changes from last year, well, I thought we might as well at least start with where we were last year, because they have been very responsive about making incremental improvements along the way. And so you can see one of it was, actually support the street activity permit, but then all the various asks that we make, so you can review those. I don't need to read them to you. So
Okay.
we want to make,
Betty, can you
What's that?
please add the one in about the signage and the cleanup teams?
I can.
Thank you.
Also, I'm
Any
looking
other-
at a bullhorns request not to be used before 9. I think we could certainly try to implement that as well. It's something I didn't really prepare for this meeting. It's currently still in our programming as far as releasing the waves with a bullhorn at their start times. And as you guys know, we do have 2 waves that leave before 9, so wave 1 and wave 2. being those two. So I think I think we can talk with our team to see how we can substitute that to relieve some of the pain points I know that we've heard from, the bullhorns, being a little bit loud for that, that 7:30 a.m. start, the 8:15 start. So noted on that as well, and we'll try to come up with a contingency plan for that and replace the bullhorns for those early waves.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? I'm gonna move to vote. I'm waiting for
question.
Brendan. I'm waiting.
On question. Second.
Zach, would you like to take the vote?
Sure.
Anyone opposed? Anybody abstaining? Anybody's recusal? And it sounds like everybody's for, and thank you, unanimous vote, and thank you Aldo and team.
And I would love to be a part of the planning process if you are going to change the start line and how it works with over 32 going into 27, that you include the community board, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bradley.
Of course.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so much. Good night. Go on to
Thank
our
you, everyone.
second.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Have a good night. Ciao.
Now we all have to look at Kate.
Are you sharing this? Yeah.
Yes.
That's.
We're going to look at, since DOT has been responsive to the objections that were made to the micro hub, it's going to be on South Street between John and Maiden Lane. This is an alternate, not an additional location. And this is a micro hub pilot on Front Street, near Maiden Lane, in the west curb lane by the city bike station. And I'm gonna have one question about this number. Finish this up first.
Do we have a map or an image?
Yes, what was given to us first, use some time, if you want to take a look at, go back to the DOT letter. Kind of like to see the detail. What it doesn't talk about in the letter, Kate, is when they were looking at South Street, the comment was there seemed to be a model that utilized carts, hand carts. This does not mention if it's hand carts, e-bikes, e-vans. It doesn't say anything about, is there any restriction that you know of or any idea of what they might be favoring using?
It's my understanding this would still be hand cards.
Okay. I was just curious because it wasn't mentioned. Okay, this made no sense to me whatsoever, just
So
that you.
there's a second, so I think that was taken from the letter I sent. I
It
think
was,
that's
it came with the
another,
letter.
higher resolution drawing where you can see the details more clearly. I included that in the notification I sent to Zach. So if you have that,
I
that's.
saw that in something, but that,
that
I
would be
also
easier
found
to
that,
look at.
actually, the picture I think is easier, which I think is what's next. Oh, just so you can see the proximity, it's only moving like a block or two away. So it could service the same destination that it's going to. Let's go to the next one to see. Here's the picture that was sent, which was very helpful because Google Maps has nothing current in it that shows the city bike station, which surprised me. That there was nothing, so this was way more informative. And since they're talking about placing the micro hub next to the city bike station, you can see it's down at that end of the block. Anyway, that one black car is parked would be in that area. Which I also noticed that the signage has changed. This particular sign, when I was able to zoom in on it, and you also mentioned in the letter, this is actually a taxi stand. If you zoom in on Google Maps, the latest maps they have, you can read, it was the Department of Investigation placard parking. So either way, doesn't matter, it's not public parking that would be replaced with where this hub would be located.
Betty, where's the Department of Investigation going?
I have no idea, but they would have gone already.
So that parking is not there currently. I don't know the history of the sign change, but I can certainly ask.
Notice I'm not supporting the placard parking and having city agency parking on the street. I'm just trying to understand if it got moved someplace else or it got removed entirely, which of course is.
There, but you can let us know in the future, that's fine. The one thing I question, because we did not get into this discussion at the last time, but now we're talking about carts, we're talking about sidewalk usage, not street usage. I think that's fair to say.
Yes.
Wait,
So,
I'm sorry,
what-
Betty, say that again? I didn't understand it.
If you're using a hand cart, where would you be moving it? Street or sidewalk?
You'd be on the sidewalk, so this is using the sidewalk.
Right, since it's hand carts, everyone was so concerned about the location. Discussion never really went around the issue of these devices are going to be on the sidewalk, not on the streets. I went to look at it, and you can see the scope of the streets, because this is less than a half-mile radius. And we were told it was half mile to a full mile, but hand carts probably on the shorter end. But you can see some very small streets are within the zone that's a delivery zone. So out of curiosity, you go to the next one. You recall the good old COVID days. Somebody went after all the streets and they used satellite images and they figured out the sizes of the sidewalks. Anyway, I just highlight obviously one of them. I couldn't only show one at a time to show that within this zone that we're talking about, there are sidewalks that are only 3.3 feet wide. There are others, as you come up, a lot of the red ones are very narrow sidewalks, as well as streets. So I wanted to make sure that we address the issue of the sidewalks could also be quite narrow. So I thought about this as somebody who has to navigate these streets and sidewalks. You got it, and there's some suggestions, but there's some suggestions. One are based on things from our last resolution and concerns that came up with that. And two, some of the things that I thought about with the sidewalk and the hand carts on the streets that we're talking about in delivery radius. So these are all very debatable, but I want to put them out there so I didn't forget to make sure that we talked about them. The use on the sidewalks should be a minimal size. You say, well, if they're gonna be on those, only if the delivery destination is on that block and on that side of the street, otherwise, pick another route. Don't pick that street. The corners in the area, because I deal with this all the time. If there aren't pedestrians, some of them do not have them, but they be ramped for accessibility by delivery carts as well as wheelchairs, strollers, etc. Otherwise, they're gonna be wandering around in this roadbed because they can't get in and out. And I don't think you really want that either. You want them backtracking, you don't want them stuck in the street. The third one, I want you to really re-question if you still want this. This was in the last request. Remember, Carrie had asked, it would carry through from the past, that any unprotected portion of the micro hub, because there's the portion where the truck parks, and then there's the portion that is protected with flexible delineators, where they're going to be doing the trans-docking, where they're going to be moving the goods, sorting them and loading them onto the carts. That area will have flexible delineators. But where the truck goes won't have any protection, obviously, because it needs to be able to pull in and out. And the request was, should that be open to the public for parking? Question is, who is going to go out there and make sure they leave in time in the morning every single day, snow or no snow, because somebody else is paying for that space?
I mean, I think that's a great. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I want to get some discussion around that, and also the DOT to work with the sanitation and Amazon to make sure the sidewalks and the ramps are kept clear of snow and ice. We know what a nightmare we had during these 2 recent snowstorms. Yes, Brendan.
Yeah, we're gonna do a lot of debating, but for an easy one for me is, can we maybe change Amazon to like whoever, like the micropilot? I know that
It
they
is
are,
Amazon.
well, it's now, Amazon, but for future, and I know this for pilot, like it could be somebody else, since I just don't want it to be that next specific. So can we just say like the utilizer of that space, or, yeah?
But this one is specific to this location though, right?
As I say, since it's very
Right,
specific,
it's just,
during this pilot period, it's going to be Amazon. Can we be specific, because this is very pointed, this isn't a general comment about all micro hubs, and this one with this known partner using handguns.
It's not the hill I'm gonna die on, so sure, but.
Well, I was gonna say, because the
I'm
request also,
gonna go.
we talk about it be for the pilot, that the authorization be for the pilot period, which is why that narrows it down as well. And with Cody and then Eric.
On the first line about delivery and car not using sidewalks with less than a certain amount of feet. How would that be enforceable or?
It is, that's simply a request.
And then, of course, the other one is the unprotected portion of the micro hub location available for parking. I agree with you, I don't know who's gonna go out there and say, hey, tabs out, you know.
Yeah, so is that something that we really want to support and say, no, we want to have private storage of vehicles, and even though we know what a micro hub is.
Right.
And we want it to work because we want it to work. So yeah, that'll be part of the vote with, do we keep that one at all or not? Eric and then Brendan.
So I don't know why we're advocating for our public space to be utilized exclusively by a vendor.
You're paying for it.
It doesn't matter that they're paying for it. And even the process of how they're, through an RFP, I think is questionable. But why are we bringing a warehousing operation transloading into a public space? I mean,
This happening already.
Kate, do you want to address it? Because it is.
Yeah, the goal of this program is to reduce the truck traffic and emissions on city streets. And like the public good, I think from our perspective is, reducing that congestion and lowering the emission. And, we recognize that there's a huge increase in people ordering things online, and that's like negatively impacting the streets. Companies are, there are instances where companies are renting their own warehouses to do that, to do the transloading like you suggested. But we also know that companies are using sidewalks, they're doing it in the middle of this roadway and obstructing traffic. This is an attempt to meet the needs that we're seeing. And again, like it is a pilot program, launched in 2024 and expected to go into 2027. But we're trying to meet the moment with what we have, and they are paying a licensing fee to use the space.
but this is not like, it shouldn't even be offered. Why are we look, I know you're their representative, but why are we allowing a company to have access to our public space?
Can I say,
Wait, no,
the board has already supported micro hubs.
Okay, well, that's the board, but
It's fine.
But the thing is, we're letting somebody use it exclusively. They can get their own warehouse, especially if it's Amazon. I mean, why, they should get their own space to do this. Why are we letting them use our public space for whatever nominal fee? And then you're basically bringing the warehousing outside. And that point about who's gonna monitor their operation, no one's gonna do it. So they're gonna end up working 24 hours a day based on their operating needs. Packages are gonna slam on the ground, lifts for the truck will make a lot of noise, packages will be thrown on the floor, on the ground. Also, this spot here, there's a Pops right there. I don't know, it's on Maiden Lane. So there'll be a bathroom that they'll be using. I mean, this will create a burden on that operator that provides public space. I mean, Amazon is taking advantage of our public space and using all types of excuses, reducing carbon footprint so that they can use our public space for their own use only. And they have enough money to get their own space to have e-bikes. If people want to if e-bikes are fine, look, that's fine, but we should not be using our public space to support their operation.
Thank you. I forget which one of you is going first.
Sorry, I partially forgot which one I was gonna address first. Oh, to the point, the third bullet point of like who's going to like enforce that, I think honestly, like the fact that like Amazon's gonna be there, they're probably gonna be the ones, and they probably have a relationship enough with like people that need to be called to move those things out the way. And then it would become a habit of, we know that Amazon calls whomever to move that truck, so people are gonna move their cars. To your point around like the public space being used in private usage, I think the goal is, and I'm not generally one to echo the government, is like this serves more of a public good. Amazon is already delivering in this space, and so what we're trying to do is centralize so that like they are not double parking in all other spaces, and they're going to be slamming boxes, the trucks. So let's say where they can actually do that, and I think that's what the goal of this is. So it's not necessarily just to give them space to operate; they're operating already. Here's the space that we would like you to operate in, versus it being right in front of my front door, sort of thing.
So to summarize from that you want to keep the bullet point that says that we're going to ask for the parking, public parking at night.
I'm okay with it. And I know that's also a point of other board members. Like Mitch, I think usually advocates for like public parking.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to gather information before we vote. Yes, Cody.
Well, just wanted to say something to what Eric was saying about public space being, given to a private entity that's paying a fee. We give public space, parking spaces to private cars all the time, pay a fee to park there, or some park for free. So, this is a greater benefit for more people, this micro app versus just, the private parking or public parking.
Cody, can I go next? Because I want to address that comment. Do you mind,
Okay,
Betty?
yeah. 1 second. Are you done, Cody?
Yes.
Okay. Then we'll have Tammy and then Justine, and then we'll come back in the room.
Okay, so I just want everybody to be really clear about what Lower Manhattan is. Lower Manhattan now has the most expensive parking in all of the city, not just of Manhattan, but everywhere. It is $5.50 for the first hour, $9 if you're a passenger vehicle, $10 an hour, $10 for the second hour and beyond if you're a commercial. The value of one parking spot for commercial parking for a full year is almost $86,000. Right. So I think that we need to really understand the value of what that public space is according to what DOT has rated it. And the value of commercial parking for a 24-hour spot, which I believe Amazon has the right for the delivery hub to be 24 hours. Correct? Am I correct in saying that? All right. So then the value of this spot for a full year is $85,598 for one parking spot. I believe this takes up how many parking spots, like commercial spots, would this be?
It's
Normally?
80 feet, so like 4 to 5 regular parking spots, maybe like 1.5 commercial truck spots.
Okay. So you understand where I'm going on the value here, right? So if I said, okay, it's 1.5 and I multiply what we've got for commercial parking, the value of this is $129,000. Which, if I remember correctly, they're paying $2,000 or possibly $3,000. How much are they paying for the year?
I believe it's $2,000, and that is, the amount that's set by the program. We wanted to increase it. We're limited to do that, and it's something we want to increase in the future.
Which I really appreciate, because I do think there is a value to our public space. And Betty, my ask would be, there is a whereas about what the dollar value is based on today's parking rates for commercial parking. And I can go over it again if you need the metrics on the numbers based on what Kate has said. So people actually do understand that it's $128,936.25 for the value that they're getting for $2,000. And in the final, therefore be it resolved, we think that one of the evaluations should be a higher cost that commercial operators are charged. Because I do think it's a great idea, but I think that it's a horrible giveaway for a corporation that can afford to rent its own spaces. Yes, they are currently operating on the streets. Yes, we are going to make it better. Yes, we are rewarding their poor behavior. And that's an issue that I have, and it's a dollar value. So I think that that needs to be in here. Kate, can you please confirm they are only unloading in the parking spaces? They are not supposed to unload onto the sidewalks. Is that correct?
That's correct. And we will be collecting feedback. There's going to be a QR code posted at the micro hub where if you see them doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, you can let us know, and we can also say to Amazon, like, don't do that again. And we also reserve the ability to revoke the permit if it comes to it. So that's something like, please, if it happens, let us know.
So then my follow-up questions that need to go into notes for the therefore be it resolved is that we do need to put on here that parking by the Amazon truck is allowed 24 hours a day. I know that is in direct competition about available for parking during off hours, but if I'm understanding correctly, they do have access to park there 24 hours. They're just not supposed to be offloading after what hour of the night? What is off hours?
So we do not have a set stop time for the loading, unloading. We do have guidance for best practices for off-hour deliveries. I can get those to you, but DOT, we do have a separate off-hour delivery program where we have in the past encouraged businesses to receive their, major deliveries by trucks like overnight in order, again, to like reduce the traffic and congestion during regular working hours.
So technically, our line that's in here is actually factually incorrect because there are no off hours. They can operate 24/7. So I think that it's important that we clean that up a little bit on our side so the public understands. And then there needs to be
It
some.
says that in the whereas. Those things are all reflected in a whereas.
All I can see is what's in front of me. So if you're listening from the public, all you're looking at is what's in front, right? So I think those need to be really explicitly cleaned. And I would also love to have in here that therefore be it resolved that DOT publicizes and provides a 311 complaint location. So it can be tracked not only by DOT, but by the community board. We have our 311 portal that we would be able to track that with. Two, that there would be something in here that says we support it and that they are not allowed to unload onto the sidewalks. That is what we have currently in Tribeca, where they unload the trucks either not only behind the truck, but on the sidewalk. And they are taking up the sidewalk space, doing the package sorting and things like that. And I think that we need to be very crystal clear on what is and what is not appropriate, what is and is not allowed, that when we support this, it's with the guide rails, because we already have the experience of the guide rails not working. And then we have in other spots like outside Whole Foods and the Warren Street Corral where it is working. So for this particularly, we want it to be successful. Let's make sure we have all the guide rails in there. And I thank you.
Or-
Okay, but then that means we have to get rid of the bullet about, because there are no off hours, there can't be public parking at any time. So
Strike it.
that would be
Yeah.
struck completely.
Yeah, if I may go, I would agree with that. If because my comment was going to be, if in fact there was times when there were off hours, label it, and then the police, of course, could enforce it, and they would get revenue from tickets. But if there are, no, seriously, they trust me, they come in and enforce the street cleaning alternate side. If it's irrelevant, and I'm not going to keep going, but if there were specific times when it was, yes, you can park here, no, you can't, the police come and they make a lot of revenue ticketing people who can't, and then they can tow them if they need to. But irrelevant because there's no off hours. So yeah, ditto to what Eric was saying and Tammy was saying. I agree. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay,
Joseph again. I was gonna reiterate, I guess it was the same thing that Tammy said, before we learned that there were no off hours, but whether there was a venue, particularly a 311 complaint area where we could keep private companies accountable for using public space, not only in this location, but elsewhere, so that, things are funneled towards official locations where offloading can happen and delivery can begin, but I guess it's the same question, which is like, can there be a way for the public to make accountability documented and tallied, and then also hopefully some kind of enforcement?
So just to reiterate, there will be, signage posted that will have a QR code for feedback. We're also updating 311 to be able to accept complaints, comments about the Micro Hub program. We're directly in contact with Amazon and will be, in communication with them about what we're hearing on the ground, and it behooves them to actually listen to what we're asking for, because we do have the ability to take this away. We also plan to, I think, towards the end of the pilot, come back to the community boards and give an update on how it worked, what we saw happening, issues, and plans for the future.
Cody, you had follow-up?
I had no idea about the economics of the parking. Thank you. But it is kind of astonishing that Amazon only paid $2,000 per year. A corporation like this, it's sort of like assuming they can get that, and the way that like cargo bikes were showing up on bike lanes, they're assuming that it's okay for this big cargo bike to be on the bike lane, just regular users, which we know in the future we'll have many more of them. So just think, I assume that in the future that the price will be much higher for this microphone.
Yeah, we're limited on what we're allowed to charge right now because it's still technically a temporary program. And the goal is, if it is to become permanent, that we have more leeway with a higher license.
Eric and
I want to respect DOT and their limitation now, but that doesn't mean that we don't object to it in writing for how low it is and provide a pathway looking ahead.
Well, is there anything to stop Amazon from bringing a truck, like a trailer, to leave it there and use it for warehousing in case they wanted to begin, collecting packages instead of just delivering them? Because I'm thinking there's no alternate site, since they're basically leasing this space 24/7 for a year. They can actually bring a trailer truck and just park it there. They can, bring a box truck or another truck to deliver packages, transload it into this trailer that they have stationary. And, they can use that to receive packages, to be delivered, as well as receiving them. Maybe Amazon might want to start delivering packages in the other direction as well. Who knows? I mean, they are here to make money, which is fine. But I'm concerned that they're gonna end up keeping it there and using it beyond what the scope is, because they're a business and they'll be creative in how to earn more revenue. So is there anything in the regs for this program to say that they can't leave a trailer or a truck there 24/7? Does it have to clear out for any time for any street cleaning?
I would have to double check regarding the street cleaning rules. My understanding is, though, in our agreement with Amazon, it's specifically for delivery only, and they're not allowed to do receiving, in the nature of the agreement, but I can confirm that.
thank you, Brendan.
Apologies, because I think we might have talked about this last time, but can you tell me what the size of the QR code is going to be and where?
I will have to check, because we already have these signs on the Upper West Side where there's a Micro Hub now. So I think I have sent maybe a picture of that sign in the past to Betty or Zach, so I will re-up that so you can have it.
Yeah, and I don't recall, usually if I've seen them, I would say, could I reach them? Because obviously I'm very short. And I have no recollection whatsoever.
But that may have been a while ago when I sent it, maybe after our first conversation.
Okay, so any other hands? So what it looks like is, one, no one's gonna make any suggestion about the first one, should there be any comment about asking, this would be for Amazon in this case, to reroute or not use sidewalks that are certain?
I think like restricting it to, a certain strict level of clear path, amount of clear path is just not realistic. Maybe we could say something like that they'll be cognizant of the different sizes of the streets and try to redirect the streets that have more clear path. But I think saying, 3 feet clear path or more is just not gonna happen. I mean, who's measuring it? Who's going out there with a tape measure?
Yeah, but
Just a
why wouldn't we
suggestion.
say it, Jess? I mean, why wouldn't we direct them and say that, we don't want them on the most narrow sidewalks?
Well, I'm saying we could say something more like that, just try to direct them to something that is more likely to be successful rather than something that we know is.
You have to
Not
get some
gonna
kind of number. Most narrow is, you come into the area, how do you know which block is the narrow?
I mean, are we prepared right now to give a number?
I don't know if it's fully fair to say that, because I'm also just trying to think of like, just from that map, we don't know where like front and back doors are, or we don't know where entrances are, and so like they might need to be on that narrow. And honestly, when it's really narrow sidewalks, they actually end up just going in the middle of the street, especially down in that area, because there's not a lot of car passing, always going through that way. And that's my only hesitation around like saying feet wise. I'm okay saying like encouraging them to avoid very narrow sidewalks, keeping in mind for like pedestrians, use. Also, this is gonna, I don't mean this to sound the way it's gonna sound, but would we refer to you as a pedestrian? I just want to be
You know, I know
inclusive.
what Yes, and part of the problem is when I go back, it struck me again today, when I go home from Whole Foods and I go down Warren Street, the sidewalk is really quite narrow. Mostly because they have a bunch of bricks. It's not a cobblestone, but it's a surface next to it that nobody uses. So the sidewalk is really just this area, the rest is useless space that is just there for aesthetics. Again. And it happens all the time that if one person is coming westbound, and I want to go eastbound, we can't pass each other. So somebody has to back up and wait for the other person to come through, and then this person can get out and around. And so if you're looking at people with strollers, you're looking at people, they can't, there needs to be some way they can pass each other. Otherwise, you're gonna get people getting blocked up with the delivery cart starts and somebody else has already started on the block. Who's gonna back up to get out of the way because they can't pass each other? So I want a distance that's enough, that's reasonable to say, delivery cart and something that's not terribly wide could possibly pass each other and not get stuck.
I think the other challenge is knowing what the width of the delivery cart is to inform that.
Even if you consider just 2.5 feet, which is pretty standard to narrow, 5 feet is sort of needed to have two things go in opposite directions.
Comes from their delivery carts like 5 feet wide.
5 feet.
Oh, no, there can be all kinds of sizes
Right.
that I won't even touch. And those probably do just belong in the street, and then let the car owners yellows.
What would that be? I don't think we should get caught up on it. I think we should make it a little more general, express the concern and move on. But that's just me.
Do you want to just plain drop it? Because if it's
Or that.
completely if someone reads it and has no idea what's being spoken about, is it worth even bothering to say it?
I mean, I think it's worthwhile keeping, but I would lean towards making it a more general statement.
Yeah, I agree, more
Yeah.
general perhaps. Without having take out the part that says with less than XX feet. Just are not
Or
used
just
on
on narrow
on
lines.
sidewalks that are narrow.
But I think that's the problem is we're biting
They're
into
all
clear
narrow.
path. They're all narrow. If it's Betty, me, and somebody coming with a stroller one way,
Not happening.
we're not
Yeah.
going to pass on some of those streets over there, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of the issues that Amazon needs to be respectful of, and I'm not sure how to make that in writing, but I definitely agree with Betty that we do need something about ClearPath. ClearPath is the largest amount of commodable space that the DOT is selling these days. No
Yeah.
offense intended to Kate, but after sitting on the, think about they're going down a narrow street. If they're looking at 50% the Hospitality Alliance is pushing, and this is something that's, again, something else taking space.
I know, puppy. I'm gonna have to do a lot of cleaning. You're right.
My comment is also that there are more and more people who are logistical engineers. Amazon's gonna have those kinds of workers. They should be able to figure out routes in the area that they're going to say this, they can tell their delivery workers which are the ones to look out for. It's not a guessing game. They don't have to eyeball it and figure it out. They can be told because they are sent on various routes or not.
And yes,
Could you ask for some kind of training for spatial awareness in terms of, I mean, it seems like the Amazon people I see delivering now with the hand carts, which have changed over the years to now have the sides so that packages don't fall. Like they're making innovations as we go along to figure things out. But the people who are delivering are also wise enough not to get into a situation where they get stuck or somebody's upset with them. So I think maybe it could be a training request for good manners or, like be spatially aware of who's coming towards you. Whether the street is too narrow to take the smaller package by hand rather than the full cart, that kind of thing.
That's why I was gonna put it back on the company rather than the worker making the decisions. The timing's decided really by the company. And they have logistical engineers that work out how to direct packages. So it wouldn't be all that hard if you gave some guidance to say, you can say 4 feet if you want, but I mean, it certainly should be 5. I guess we're gonna go nowhere with this, so I will probably just end up dumping that one because.
it's fine.
Okay, so we'll get rid of the first bullet. We'll get rid of,
Third,
well, do you want to get rid of the second one too? Which is asking them, they make sure they ramp.
No, I think that's an important one, the second one.
Well, I thought the first one was important.
I mean, I kind of agree with you. I just can't figure out what the language is. So yeah, I would keep something in for 1 and 2. But
Well, Tammy, do you have a suggestion about the first one?
You know me, I'm not a fan of anything less than 8 or 10 feet of clear path, so I might not be the right person to advocate on that. But
I mean, maybe 5 feet, because I don't think the sidewalks are that.
no.
are
I
that
think
big.
8-foot clear path, 8 to 10.
well,
I
wait a
mean,
minute, they're moving,
delivery
right?
carts
They're
should
not
not
like
be
skating.
used on sidewalks
You're
that are
Saying they
less.
can't go on a street unless there's more than 8-foot clear path.
Yeah, they are pedestrians. Look at
Right.
that part, they're pedestrians.
So,
I just want to make it so that pedestrian can pass another pedestrian.
I feel like we're overdoing it on this one, especially for this to be a pilot. I
Yeah.
think that is an important thing to do, but I really do think that we should keep it general and say narrow. And then what I would propose is that we use the next year to figure out the language that we want if and when this becomes.
Because that way it's general if we say narrow, and I know they're all narrow, but that we have a caveat for them, unless the delivery destination is on that block and the side of the street. So that's important because obviously somebody was saying earlier about whether or not, we don't know where their the delivery entrance is, blah, blah, blah. This gives them free reign to do what they need to do.
Yeah, no, they need to be able to go where they need to go.
Yeah,
So,
I think
let's
narrow is
keep
good
it-
enough.
So,
That's my
Good.
vote.
Okay,
sounds like we're keeping number 2 as well.
because the first
sounds
one
like-
will simply be rather than less than, it'll just say narrow.
Correct,
sidewalk, and it won't say clear path. It will also say, the second one, correct? Will
Correct.
Stay the way it is.
It doesn't make sense. The verbiage doesn't make sense.
delivery hand carts are not used on sidewalks, with narrow, well,
Not used on narrow sidewalks,
used on narrow sidewalks.
unless a delivery destination is on the block
Mhm,
inside of the street.
mhm.
The second
that's
one doesn't make
perfect.
sense.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So the
Not used
corner-
on narrow sidewalks. Yep.
go with the second one.
Second one doesn't make sense because,
So we're gonna clean up the second one.
Both give me guidance.
What are we trying to say there? I'm not entirely clear what we're trying to say. That we want them to.
Because you can step up and down the damn curb.
Mhm.
Lots of people with wheels can't.
Yes.
They need something ramped.
And they need the
Now, if
ramps.
there's not a curb cut, they can put an external one and you'll see them around. They simply use tarmac and go from the curb down to the street surface.
No, but it
That's
would be
fine, that's not-
nicer to have them put in actual ramps because, and I think as you well know, in FIDI, there are a lot of corners that don't have ramps or they're all broken up so you can't use them.
And that's why I'm commenting, or
I
they're
know.
too narrow to be used by these carts anyway. There needs to be something so they can get from the sidewalk to the street level.
Yep,
So are you saying they bring a ramp? I don't understand.
But it's ramped.
just
Oh,
accessible,
they have to install it.
just accessible, ramped for accessibility, period. I think
Let Kate speak.
Sorry, just to interject on the ramp piece, DOT does have a program where we are trying to bring every corner in the city into compliance with ADA ramps and accessibility. So we have multiple capital construction contracts going with PDC to build out ramps in locations where they're currently missing. It's very likely that some of the locations in CB1 are on a future contract, and in the locations where we can't immediately do something, like Betty pointed out, we do a temporary measure where we'll add tar mat to it so that it's usable. But if there are locations that you're saying are missing the ramps, please let us know. And if they're not already in our database for ones that need to be made accessible, we'll add them to the list.
I know there are 5 that came to this, one of the committees last month. for
Okay.
this one.
Good to know.
I would appear so.
Okay. What do you want to do with the third one? Drop it completely because
Yes,
there's
we're checking that one.
the fourth one.
Yes, sounds like we're keeping that one as is. And then there are, I think, 2 or 3 that we need to add. Don't
right, the
understand what
stuff
they were,
that
'cause
Tammy
they're-
talked about, right, about the money.
Money.
Yeah, I was gonna say this.
Yes, the cost.
This, leading to the cost of the pilot. That in the future, the cost of the hub for the partner being more expensive than it is, be lifted closer to market rate.
Mhm.
Right, and in the whereases, you talk about what that amount of money is, at 100,000, whatever.
General here.
Is there currently metered parking there?
No,
So the current market rate would be
Zero in
zero.
that location. But the taxi,
Well,
and the rest of the block has no meter rate either. Right now, it's 0 for that block.
Okay. So, okay, we'll have to figure out what we're talking about then there. So I don't get
Well, I will word it as, given that the metered, it's this cost. We'd like to up the current amount of $3,000.
But what we're really saying is if and when this expands in areas that there's
That's what
pressure
current
parking,
program.
et cetera, this is what we wanted to reflect.
because the.
Not that we're impacting what it is today.
Gotcha.
You know, it's a side, resolution, but Amazon should assume that it's going to be able to use this sort of public space, which is going to create for them in the future. So. you know, pay
Are there any other points that we needed to add?
Yeah, does anyone have reservations about having this a 24/7 operation?
No.
I have
because-
reservations, but they're giving it to them.
Well, but we can put in there that we would like, whenever Kate tells us what the off hours are, right? That we request that they are quiet during off hours, considerate of the neighbors.
I thought, so there are off hours, because it sounded like we were saying that there are not.
No, I think what Tammy is asking is, DOT, we have guidance for when trucks make overnight deliveries for best practices to be like a respectful neighbor. And I think what Tammy's asking for is
That we
that
limit.
information, and also, if our guidance says like deliveries after 10 PM, please do X, Y, Z. I think that's what Tammy's getting at, but.
Yeah,
um,
I would rather do nighttime or put time in. I wouldn't use the word off hours because these guys can be there come in and out 24/7. There are no off hours.
Well, but you know,
Right,
the
so
thing
then
is, if
that
they're driving
guidance
the
would apply.
truck in overnight, which is the goal that DOT said that they want, that it's not during rush hour, it's not during the, you know, it's an overnight. That's none of us care. That's less trucks on the streets during prime time. I think that's a great thing, right? That's the goal. But what you don't want is people yelling back and forth, unloading the truck underneath the residential building that's a block away at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I think Kate has, Kate, didn't you say you had off?
Yeah, so what we are going to reflect is what the DOT has as guidance for essentially other deliveries.
Right, that
We
it
can
would
add that.
apply here to the micro hub.
All right, those were the, I think, 2 or 3, so we caught those.
Yes, those are the two, and the one is dropped, and the other is simplified.
Yep.
Ready to
Other
vote?
questions or feedback? Called question?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any negative votes?
Oh.
That, ready to count?
One. A hard.
Well, no, but I have to make sure it's recorded.
You don't have any soft votes, Eric, at all.
Emphatic.
Okay.
Okay, any abstentions? Any recusals? Then I assume everyone else will say yes, then that's resolution passes.
So Eric was no?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. See, he didn't get it. He's a hard no.
I think we need slides back up.
Okay,
Yeah, I just got first of all, sorry.
so let him finish his interest. And I hope nothing else pops up.
Slide from you.
Yes, oh, and to remind you, because I saw this in the news, no, it's gone. A lot of deliveries, really moving into this hub of alternative. It's been mostly in Europe, but to let you know that they're obviously not novices at this. And in fact, if you've noticed a lot of their commercial cargo bikes that are Amazon, anyone else been noticing them around?
Yes.
Yeah, I see them every day in Battery Park City now. I'm trying to figure out where they're coming from, unless they're coming from Whole Foods, where they could be loading them and
I think those are the ones with the yellow top bins.
No.
No.
I'll show you a picture of it later, but it's
Well, I know the
it's
ones you're
cargo
talking about. too.
with the logo on the side.
Yeah.
No, he's saying that the Whole Foods are the yellow top bin ones.
I'm not so sure the other doesn't also exist because they have loading docks. I don't know where they're coming from, but Kate, if you ever find out where they're coming from.
I believe, I'm not sure about the ones in Manhattan, but I believe in Brooklyn, there's, a site maybe
The
the.
Brooklyn Army Terminal has them. No, these are definitely, I see them every single day in Battery Park City. So they're coming from somewhere and they're making very routine deliveries using them. But anyway,
Sounds
so it can be looked. And you'll see some pictures, 'cause I have some pictures in here, because it's gonna be a hot topic to sell us. Okay, updates. For those who went and listened to the conversation yesterday, of all the various street plans. And this is now the chairman of the Transportation Committee at City Council, Shauna Brew. And what was interesting from this, if you look at this, is the DOT has said that they have changing how they're looking at the measurement of the street plans. I think that's important to look at. Outcomes will be looking rather than at miles, which is what the legislation from 2019 measures them, the bus lanes and the bike lanes, is they are going to look at outcomes in terms of how much moving faster, more people biking, those sorts of things to show their positive results are occurring versus just measuring mileage and paint on the ground. So you have to keep that in mind. Next. Yes, and we know that the federal judge now has said congestion pricing, he got rid of the feds, so that's resolved. Next.
Well, they'll appeal, so, but
Port Authority is going to install fast EV chargers at LaGuardia Airport for those who are concerned about electric vehicles. And there are more and more vehicles, the buses and other things are, they need to service them. Yes, snow was really practiced, and the MTA in fact is dropping the week of the snow from their stats. So when you read them, they don't look so terrible for January. The MTA has already said they're gonna drop the stats from January. Next. I mean, yes, and say they had widespread detours and weather obstacles, and they acknowledge that. There were 800,000 bus trips per day compared to over 1 million a day. So the drop is about 25%. Next. And yes, since we also have to worry about the waterways, since we have blue highways, I decided I'd do my bit and take daily pictures to see what it really looked like around some of the ferry docks. This one's the Battery Park City dock, January 27th, so this was soon after the snow.
What you got there?
And you can see it's broken up because again, this is brackish water. This is ice that is coming down from towards Albany, coming down, flowing. And you'll see that obviously.
Really?
There's a hand up.
Tammy, did you have something to say about ice?
No, it was more about the public hearing yesterday. I don't know if Betty was going to go into the transportation comment I found really interesting, which didn't necessarily match up with what we know. City Council asked the head of DOT if there have been complaints, increased complaints about rats or garbage from outdoor dining. And his response was, not that I'm aware, but he doesn't get them. They go to DSNY. So I found it really kind of interesting when you're taking a look at outdoor dining and the cross section of information between agencies that was not shared because DOT also admitted they didn't know the DOB rules yesterday. And there were a lot of other things. Betty, were you going to say the good news about FIDI? DOT mentioned that they would be looking into FIDI.
They did, but they said they were not ready to say anything.
So
It was brought up. I thought that was good. So I mean, you know, you got to do the good and the bad. Got to have both.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the ice loads continue increases by February 1st. But look at by February 6th. Doesn't look so bad, and there's a ferry there, but regular ferry service hadn't started. It's in Blue House. Next, close the commuters. But look at February 9th. Ice flow starts up again, just as well. New York Waterway didn't start their daily service. Next.
Fun with this, huh?
I did. But then by February 13th, I took it, I haven't put it every day. You can see that, again, they can cut through this kind of ice because it's broken up. And they did make it to the dock here. Next. And February 14th,
One day.
Wow.
yes, this is how much it can change. And you can see the ice flow. It's just in the middle of the river and look, it's not, it's pretty, not much there. And, but look at the 15. So yes, the ferry service has started and they can deal with this kind of stuff. For those who are wondering about what's going to happen if we start getting our freight deliveries by water and they're going into these piers, what's it going to look like? I collected what I could see and you could see what happens. They do have icebreaker functions and other things on some of these boats. So in fact, they can break through the ice if they want to do. Next, things I learned. Dock New York, Hornblower is leaving at Pier 15. And the EDC is changing the lease to Dock New York City. This is the website. And you can see they like us, the west side of our district. Next. This is
Betty,
also
do you have, Betty, do you have any more information on that than we do?
I just went to their website.
Yeah, I didn't see
Because
anything.
that's the latest one. Well, simply this is their website. I want to see what they did in general before they came and took over Pier 15, signed a contract for Pier 15. And in fact, they do lots of things. They do historic ship docking. They do lots of stuff.
Oh, we're well
Check out
aware
their
who Dock NYC is. They're the same people who operate out of its waterways.
There they are. And you can see a lot of the locations where they are locations that Blue Highway is looking at for activating as well, which is why I had questioned when asking about the vendor, to ask them what their plans are for Blue Highways. Have they made any agreements? Because the EDC is one of the groups promoting Blue Highways along with the DOT. Anyway,
They'll probably be April exec for that.
yes, and I had that, I think, on the last slide.
I'm sorry, March exec, sorry.
Okay, sorry. Look at exec in March, this one. We all have garbage in our beautiful district. So I saw this article in the office tonight. I don't know if anybody else caught it, but again, I didn't realize it was a sped. The DOT sign to show there is a fine if you could read it. It would be great. But this was also kind of trashed in the process. Anyway, it's an ongoing, and there's a woman who's evidently adopted it and trying to clean up this herself. Has anybody seen these photos? I just saw them in Tribeca Citizen. But the dump truck that looks like it went through.
Yeah, but I did one in the board report, yeah.
That's what
I saw,
Oh, no, yeah, I saw that.
that's at bottom of City Hall Park.
This is very much about the stupidity, sorry. Incompetence of those employees, because there's a known, like, that's a manhole cover. This is a known thing. Why do you have a truck on a sidewalk? Also, with that being bluestone. Because I was pissed about this, they were scraping that, and we already have an issue with the cracking on that stone. And then I came back an hour later to see that. So, yeah, no, this was incompetence. And now you can actually not pass through, so that gate right there is actually closed, and you can't go around, so you have to take all kind of other precautions. It's just a lot of stupidity.
And that's
now
something
it's
that's
gonna
already
obviously
damaged.
cost a lot of money.
And
Yep.
probably not paid,
Yeah.
but paid by the citizens. Anyway, next. Since we're into the shoveling thing, I thought this is kind of interesting, the robot. Next.
Sorry.
The announcement already made about two world trade going up in the future, in our future. And looking to negotiate some of the pedestrian experience along that VC Street stretch will be our future challenge. Next. There's so much news out there. Air Mobility Corporation has re-signed for they do the data side of all of the stop sign, this red camera lights, all the lights, as well as monitoring the weight on the BQE. They do a lot of data monitoring, the DOT, and that's re-signed in January, so that is now reactivated. Next. Yeah, speaking of cameras. Anyway, the E of the curiosity of why are all the speeders in luxury cars? Why are they Mercedes and quirky reports? Massachusetts has now has a big report on e-bikes and looking at the micro-mobility. Again, if there's ever an interest to move forward, there is more stuff coming out. There's nothing going on in New York City or New York State at this time, but I wanted to point out for those who are interested, might be interested in looking at the report putting up by Massachusetts. In case you're interested about what these tiers are, for the next one, I think I shot what that is. So tier 0 is what they consider, they should be going with regular bicycles. And you can see they have the human powered micro-mobility and those that are what we would consider pedal assist. And those go above. The data shows that more and more bikes are out there. And if you look where that orangey color is the Brooklyn Bridge. So there is more use of all of the bridges, but at the top of the pile, the data continues. Accidents, yeah, accidents for last year. City map, the red ones are where there are deaths. The size of the spot is also how many occurred at that particular location. So out of curiosity, I went to the next one. I had to zoom into our district a bit. And I couldn't get Crash Mapper to really focus down on the district, although that's what I was pushing to do. So I did it neighborhood by neighborhood. And if you want to see the number of crashes, we had no deaths in our district. Tribeca had 91, Fidei 86, Battery Park City 27, the Civic Center 25. Most of these, a lot of these crashes were actually on West Street, on West Side, on the FDR Drive and Canal Street.
You know, it's crazy.
The other one that surprised me was as high as it was actually Chambers Street. Anyway, next. A pedestrian count that came out, and MIT did a study, came out, and we were number 2 in the city, which surprised me. I thought more of Midtown, like CB4's area, would be higher than it is. But actually,
The village,
CB5, and they're by far. They're 1,200 and something, they're almost double us, and then actually CB2 is 3rd. So the next, which will that surprise me, was that high? So you can see, but that's why there's more of a look, and the DOT has agreed to, has been responding to the report and saying they are looking at how they do their pedestrian counts based on MIT technical additions that they have from their study and why they did and what they found. Because they really get into the data with MIT. Next. So we may be getting more pedestrian data. Remember, I've been telling you that the feds were after people with foreigners with licenses, or people, they started out with English language abilities, and they started to talk about all kinds of things. Immigrant New Yorkers are now denied commercial licenses. New York State has come out in response to the threats from the federal government with rescinding funding. So 5% of our state yellow bus truck drivers are licensed through the non-domiciled program. So that's gonna be a shortage for them. If you go to the next one, it also affects the MTA. And of course, I think that one of them talks about how many truck drivers there are. And the lawsuit was like 200,000. New York City residents, many of them truck drivers, are affected by this non-domicile and will lose their driver's licenses and hence their jobs. Maybe they will all go to cargo bikes. I have no idea, but it's kind of a weird timing. But yeah, the DMV is not issuing them. Oh, here, the last paragraph. The city wrote in a lawsuit, as many as 200,000 immigrants, most of them truckers, would put out of work by the policy. So there'll be ramifications that are going to be playing through. But we all remember the snow and trying to get on a bus. So this was just a little reminder to you. And the MTA is not looking at both door entering until they can get more control of fare evaders. It's going to crack down on there's a new crackdown on illegal cabbies at JFK, so it's really the Port Authority that's leading this one. Next, our streets. U.S. transportation is going to start high trainee failure rates. Did you know now that they're looking to get more air traffic controllers, they're having terrible problems with failure rates? They can't figure out even why so many of them are failing. Next. Congress wants to simplify the FAA to simplify the air taxi certification process. Again, it's supposed to start by the end of this year, but no dates have been announced and it may be pushed back. So this is why it's of interest. Let's see what Congress is doing. Go to the next one. Oh, this is China is part of the reason that the feds are getting so interested about it. This is one of their eVTOLs. In fact, they are the big competitor to the US. There's very little activity, but a little bit in Europe, especially France. And this is what the feds are worried about, is China taking over this whole segment. Next. And from above, this is what that one we just saw that's Chinese. It actually has this many rotaries on top. But it's more like the French one that we saw down here when they did the exhibition down here on Pier 6. And for those who want to know, because I talked to my grandfather about this. He was born in 1902. If you want to see the compression of what changes in people's lifetimes, did you realize that this really occurred just within 66 years?
Or so they say.
Maybe those could be electrified now. Just saying.
Well, they could. If you think things are going fast now, it's happened before, and that generation was really kind of shell shocked by what they saw in their lifetimes as well. That's what we're going to see. What I'm going to see in my lifetime, because I go back to some of this. Okay, some of the changes, and there are very few, but a few changes for the World Cup are occurring. One of them, Uber is putting in some installation kiosks at the airports, hotels and ports. Have a way for people who don't have the app on their phones, such as foreigners might not. Next. Washington Times. The US Senate again is getting involved with automated vehicles because they're also concerned about that. All of a sudden. So go to the next one. The National Highway Administration is inviting public comment, so they're at a very early stage. Next. They have put forward some autonomous vehicle framework called the Self-Drive Act, so we'll see where that goes. But what's been said so far about it is it will limit the city and the state authority over AVs. At this point, the DOT, New York City DOT, has control over what happens in New York City. As you'll see in the next one, New York State has kind of backed out. The governor was pushing a bill that would have had something occurring in the rest of New York State, but now has said no. Alphabet is working, they're doing more public relations out there, and believe it or not, working with DeepMind, they are now generating scenarios for training the AI system on these vehicles, so they don't have to do real miles getting down the road. They can have theoretical miles created by AI to develop the model for these Waymo and others. Next.
You want to cook up the salmon and stick broccoli in?
Probably find it wildly unpopular in New
Takes 2
York, and
minutes.
so from that, next. In fact, the polls are out and the governor has pulled back from her supporting AV legislation next in New York State. So she now says no outside New York City, but is not saying anything about New York City. So New York City DOT still has full reign until the feds do something. The state has opted to do that now. Next. More advocacy being done by Waymo. So when you start to see these groups, you know who is behind them. Together for Safe Roads is really Waymo. Next. Yes. And I won't mention the connections here. Go to the next one. Oh. Keep going. There are more countries that are starting to question, are we saving jobs that are really worth saving? But anyway, this is having to do with congestion pricing. Interesting that Uber and Lyft and taxis, the surcharges that are on each ride, which have gone higher and higher and higher, they now account for 27% of all congestion pricing revenue. So I can tell you, the local residents driving personal cars may not be paying anything driving within the district. Those who take any of the other sources are paying big money. That's really paying, contributing a lot for congestion pricing. And next, stay away from these. Yeah, this, more people going after the employment. Next. Ride hailing for teens. So Lyft and those are trying to expand their market base. Yeah. We know that. And let's not forget the trucks are out there as well that are autonomous. They can now run longer, yes. And they are really all in Texas at this point. So I was gonna say, you won't see them anywhere. The scale is actually relatively small that are out there. But it was interesting. I saw something from MIT Initiative. It was an interesting perspective because it was only about truck automation, nothing else. And their take was interesting, and that was rather than focusing on safety, which is what Waymo and all the others dealing with autonomous cars are looking at, they said the big problem with trucks is everybody sues trucks because everyone cuts in front of them and either runs into them or cuts them off where they can't possibly stop and they end up rear-ending you. And so they look at autonomous vehicles in terms of liability issues. They don't worry about safety issues, they measure it as liability issues. So I thought was kind of an interesting, quirky way of looking at trucks autonomous, but realize the difference of perspective from the industries. Next. Yeah, only 200 driverless checks. That's not And there's never an end to it, so here's another one that's being suggested, and this is going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. But they're gonna have these little pods, and they'll be on these little, these are the size of bike lanes for width, if you're wondering. They'll run a fixed route. In fact, the Brooklyn Army Terminal kind of does that anyway without the fixed route. Well, maybe a fixed route, but not fixed like this, correct?
I'm not certain.
Okay, they have autonomous vehicles that work in Brooklyn, in the Brooklyn Army Terminal. And we're seeing more and more of these cargo bikes. And this is Honda getting into the game this year. They will start to mass produce them, so you know that. Or the next one. This is interesting because look at this, this E-Quad covers 20 miles. That's the critical part for you to remember. 20 miles on a full charge and has swappable batteries, so it can travel at 15 miles per hour, which we know is the speed, maximal speed on these commercial cargo bikes. Keep those in mind. The batteries weigh as much as 22 pounds on the undercarriage. They can do up to 20 miles of range in the pedal assist. They have 5 different pedal assist levels, and they can carry 650 pounds of cargo, because I know that's your question. So they weigh about 800 pounds at least. And here's another brand that's also in there to show. Rivian is also spun off, and they are working with Amazon amongst other groups. And interesting, they have an open vehicle as well. Anyway, next. So we're going to see more and more cargo bikes out there. And here's an Amazon one, and this is the kind that I've seen around Barty Park City every day. And 20 cargo
Hey,
bike
Betty.
miles. Like,
Can I ask-
can replace 20 van or box truck miles.
Can I
Is
ask a
that-
question about these?
Sure.
When we're looking at these, do you have any idea whether these are in general roadworthy, right? Because they weigh equal to more than what a motorcycle can weigh. So to me, these all belong on the street, not in a greenway. Every
Roadway.
single one of the ones you've shown.
Yeah, they are roadworthy, and in fact, the ones that I've seen have all been on roadbed.
Okay.
But in
Just
fact, I have
checking.
a question later to see, does CB1 want to come out with an actual resolution at some point on the issue? Yes,
I've seen plenty of bike lanes, and even behavior that's like when an Amazon cargo bike was up behind a woman on a bicycle, a human powered bike, and started blowing its horn. You know, and I thought, that's some serious like bike bullying. But I think as you see more of these on the bike lanes. it should be there.
that's why I was questioning where they're coming from, those that we're seeing around Battery Park City, and the people who are seeing them in other parts of the district, because they're probably coming from somewhere else in the district. But I don't yet know where. I just want to hear from people when they see it. Okay, so now you know what the significance of what these groups are targeting for, and that's the 20 cargo bike miles before recharging the batteries or switching them out, because it replaces 20 van or box truck miles. Next. And yeah, this gets back to the bike lane. So here's one, and they show, this is the real spin. This is Honda, and they're marketing as, look at how you can go around and use the bike lanes. Do we have any bike lanes that are this wide? I would say absolutely not. And this is false marketing by Honda. But that's usually my question. Should CB1s in the future, not today, take a position on them being using or not using bike lanes?
Yes.
Okay, so if you want, we can do that in the future.
Think
Moving
we
that direction.
have, Betty. I think we
Haven't,
have,
not in general, we have not.
but we definitely should because that's part and parcel to what's happening now and what EDC and DOT need to be planning for the future. So yeah.
Right, and the sale of them is getting greater, and now that we know more and more truck drivers are losing their licenses because of the feds and what the New York has decided to follow because of the feds' threats for funding. That may surge more. There's also a micromobility coalition that started to shape New York City policy. So people like to know advocacy groups next. And in fact, Next Mile Coalition is one of the groups that's the partner to this e-mobility project. And it does represent all kinds of levels working within e-mobility. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. Back to Chicago because they have sidewalk. We do not yet have sidewalk robots. Kind of interesting because you can look, this is typically what some of our sidewalks look like. Is this one kind of chugging along? I could see the whole video. It had trouble getting up the pedestrian ramp. But look at the next one. And in fact, you can see the person bending over to look at it. You can see that it's already spinning, just spun a bit. It's not going a straight line anymore. And another lesson that I learned from Chicago, because people realized, remember they stopped traffic. They told people to not get on the roads. It was just for one day during the one snowstorm. But I want to show you what can go wrong when people do get on. This happened one day. This is a normal day commuting home, but we got a blizzard started. This is Lakeshore Drive, a major road getting in and out of downtown. And you can see they were stuck for quite a while. It's the person taking the photographs. But if you go to the next one, I mean, this was a saga that went on. This is when they started to evacuate more people. They finally cleared out one side of the road and this went on and on. Next. Then they had to take all the snow out so they could even get to these cars to get the tow trucks to even get them out of there. When this went on, well, go on, you'll see how long that went. There's 20 inches of snow, so that's similar to our last one. Took 33 hours to reopen the road. The 496 cars being relocated, it's actually a way underestimation. Why? Because many people slept in their cars, shoveled them out, and moved them themselves. So they did not need to recover all the cars. A lot of drivers would not leave them, which the city really hated, which is why those calls numbers were so high. So thank you.
Night, everybody.
All right, good night.
I'm going to make dinner, as I mentioned. Anybody
night,
wants to
everybody.
come?
Yeah, there you go.